Good evening and welcome to the Monday night edition of the People Show on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. If you have not, please go to our YouTube channel. Look for the People Show with Mark J. Wallace, and please subscribe there for absolutely free, and then like and share it with your other members. Tonight is another episode of Monroe Monday with retired veteran journalist Monroe Anderson, who's going to be joining me for the program. And we're going to be talking about all of the news of the week, including the war in Iran, and why has the United States decided to be silent? There's been no airstrikes for the third day in Iran. We're also going to be talking about the midterm election that's coming up in just 99 days. And Mainers have chosen their candidate and he only has 99 days to mount up a campaign, but his campaign has started off to a good run. He raised over $1 billion within 24 hours of being elected by their delegates there in Maine. We're going to be talking about that, as well as the president barreling down on the Smithsonian and putting restrictions on, or disclosure, I guess you would call it, when people who are going into the Smithsonian and having them to put signs there that saying that the information that they may be seeing may not be historically correct, and please to go to the president's outlet for more accurate information. As well as we're going to be talking about the press banquet that took place of the White House press dinner on this past weekend, and whether or not the president should be invited to the White House press category. And I've got my thoughts about that as well. We just got word that Carly Simon, who is an artist, had just announced that she has Parkinson. And then we're going to be talking about this man, Jimmy Chris Duncan, who just walked out of prison about 7 months ago, convicted of first-degree murder of a 24-month-old. And you are going to be startled at yet another case of a man who should never have gone to prison based on the evidence that was put forth. Another case. The difference is this happened to be a white man who was poor in Louisiana, and that seems to be a thematic thrust for people who are poor, that these types of injustices take place. So we've got a whole lot to talk about. And then coming up a little bit later on in the program, we're going to be talking with the founder and CEO of today's Black Women. The Black Women Expo this year is the 31st annual Black Women's Expo. And we're going to be talking with Mary Green and finding out more about her and her journey in building what has become a staple here in Chicago that highlights the excellence and the challenges that Black women face all across America, and certainly the lives that has been changed. And we're going to be talking with her about that. And of course, Monroe and I are going to be broadcasting live from this year's 31st annual Black Women's Expo on Friday, July 31st. Dorothy Tucker is going to be our guest. She is a CBS 2 investigative reporter. And we're going to be talking with her about her exhaustive investigative story that she has done on injustice for Black women here in Chicago. Black women are only 16% of the population, but yet they are 30% victims of all 30% victims of all crimes reported in Chicago. And when she did the story, they went back and found that this is not just today, but it dates back 25 years. So we're going to be broadcasting live. We're going to be talking about that. And one of our special guests is going to be one of the Cook County Circuit Court judges, H. Yvonne Coleman, who is a Cook County judge, family court judge, and she's going to be with us on the panel talking about this very important issue. And so we're going to be live there at the 31st annual today's Black Woman Expo. So make sure that you get your tickets. You can go to Walgreens. Tickets are available on sale at Walgreens, or you can go to their website at bwe.com to purchase tickets. So we're going to have a great time. There's going to be wonderful guests there. We're going to have Joanne Reed is going to be there, along with Kiki Palmer. Two of the special people are going to be there. And of course, Jonathan Jackson is going to be holding a town hall panel about voting engagement and voter rights as it relates to Black women. And so really the thematic thrust of this year's Black Women's Expo is We Matter, meaning Black women matter. And so we're going to have her on the program a little bit later on. And then we'll be taking your phone calls right here on the People Show at 951-221-8221. So Monroe will be joining me momentarily. But this, I want to talk about a few things that we didn't get a chance to get to on last week, but it's one of those things that I always want to remind us on. That I've had conversation this past week with one of my, I call him one of my brothers, Reven Fellows, who has been out there on the front lines and certainly working hard in terms of putting the Black agenda together and Black Wall Street and the new Black leadership. So he has been tirelessly working. And then he and Gregory Sane have a program on the intellectual radio that has just started in this is their third week, that comes on every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So make sure that you tune in for that. But he and I are having a conversation, and we have been working along, and all of you know that I believe that it is very important to make sure that you're registered to vote, and very important to make sure that you register your young people and get young people engaged in voting, and that we have to have a strategic approach to how we're going to leverage our power. So I'm going to be moderating a panel at the Black Women's Expo specifically about that at 3 p.m. on Friday. We'll be live broadcasting the podcast at 1 p.m. and then we will have I will be moderating the panel at 3 p.m. on strategic voting, how the Black community must organize to leverage the power of our vote that we have here in Chicago and Cook County and in the state of Illinois. And I believe that we will be the model for the rest of the country in terms of organizing our vote. We might not be the majority as it relates into numbers around the country, but we happen to have the significant vote that is the determining vote between winners and losers, certainly on the Democratic side. And why it is not necessarily that we are holding the Democratic Party as some up on some sort of pedestal, but it happens to be the channel by which most and all of the gains that we have benefited from and we have received has come through the Democratic Party and the democratic process. Now, we have issues with the Democratic Party, and certainly, but we need to leverage our power to make the Democratic Party work even harder for bringing the types of justice and inequities that we faced, from education to economics. But you cannot do that if you do not have power. And in order to have power, you have to have one of two things. You have to have either a lot of money and a huge checkbook, which we do not have, or you have to have a lot of votes. We do have that. And any one man with a bunch of money, billionaires, they only count for one vote. They can't go into the polls and vote to elect. They can certainly pour a lot of money into campaigns. However, that being said, organizing and understanding the power of an organized bloc will neutralize unfettered money, where we have a Supreme Court in the Citizens United that has decided that corporations are people too, and corporations are not people. And in fact, it was never mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, and certainly was not mentioned in the Constitution. But we can neutralize the billionaires and the corporatists that are buying politicians on both sides, on the Democratic side as well on the Republican side, to make sure that we protect our democratic process. So we're going to be talking about that on Friday. So please make sure you get your tickets. You can go to Walgreens and you can get tickets at half price at Walgreens. And this year, I believe, and as I have said this before, that I believe that we are interdependent upon enriching ourselves and our communities in all of these areas. And we have to be interdependent, and we have to have a corporate approach to how we move forward. That's one of the staples that Stokely Carmichael, who later became Kwame Ture, talked about, how no Black person in the country can make any advancement solely based on his or her own talent. In other words, we have to have a corporate collective agenda if we are going to thrive and enrich ourselves all across our communities, wherever it is that we live. Whenever we do that, whenever we get to that point, we will demonstrate to ourselves and to the world that we matter and we are a part of the process. In fact, the United States would collapse if it were not for the trillions of dollars that we put into this economy. So we're going to be talking about all of that coming up on this weekend at the Black Women's Expo that is going to be on July 31st through August the 2nd. On Saturday, Friday, and Saturday, the Black Women's Expo is open from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. and on Sunday, 11 to 7. So make sure you get your tickets and come on out. And you're going to see some great, powerful Black women doing business all over the city of Chicago. Some great restaurants that have just opened up. There's going to be a restaurant pavilion of the new Black restaurants opened up in the Chicago on the south and west and north side of Chicago. We've got some tremendous eateries that are opening up. I'm really excited about that. So, and a whole lot more that you're going to be able to experience, the Black experience at the 31st annual Black Women's Expo. Here to talk with me now is my guest co-host, who's going to be with me on Friday, is Monroe Anderson, is retired, and we put him to work all the time, so he's with me every other week, and he's going to be with me on Friday. We're going to be doing live broadcast. Hey, Monroe, welcome to the program. How you doing?
Okay, Mark, what about you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Was out in that rainy, stormy weather earlier and got pelted a little bit with the hail on the south side of Chicago. I don't know if you all had any up there on your side of town.
Yeah, we had it, but I was indoors. I hadn't ventured out. So I just heard hitting the roof. That was it.
Yeah, well, you're living the life of Riley, so you don't have to go out. You know, the rest of us still have to work for a living. So, you know, I had to get out and get drenched and all that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, this is true. Every day is Saturday. That's what I say.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started here. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. The Iran United States conflict. This is the third day. There has been no U.S. strikes on Iran, and that is not because of what the Ambassador Waltz went on the morning shows this weekend talking about. President Trump has decided to give peace a chance, but there has been great reporting that has been by the New York Times and the Washington Post that has said that the United States is burning through and depleting our munitions, which is our equipment, our military weapons, and ammunition. So that's what munitions are. When people hear that word munitions, is that we're burning through it faster than it can be replaced.
And it puts us at danger if China decides to take advantage of us right now, or even North Korea. It's the problem is you don't start a war with an idea of how you're going to exit it. And Trump's idea of exiting the war was like it was going to happen in Nicaragua, where he's going to come in, shoot up a few people, grab the leader, and drag him out and and then decide who is going to be in the leadership. The problem is Iran is a big country with 91 million people in it, and they've been preparing for an invasion from us for 30 years or more. So they were ready for us. And they have a setup with their leadership through cells, basically, where, okay, if they kill you, then I will be the head of this podcast. If they kill me, then maybe Chris will be the head. But they have a whole structure where the leadership will be replaced with leadership likewise. And Trump foolishly killed the head of Iran, and his son replaced him. And now sometimes Trump wants to negotiate with him, sometimes he doesn't. But the problem is he did kill the current leader of Iran and some of his family members. So he's really not that inclined to want to strike a deal with us.
Well, what they've done is they've institutionalized their infrastructure there to be able to withstand. The United States went in on February 28th and bombed daily for 40 days, bombed Iran, and Iran withstand all of that assault,
Right.
which basically, in many respects, has weakened the United States, because they now see that we've been able to withstand 40 days of assault, and we're still here. In fact, they not only withstand 40 days of the assault, that they were able to recognize that they could control the Strait of Hormuz, which put a stranglehold and manipulated global gas prices, which impacted the United States economy. So they were able to inflict harm worldwide.
Well, in fact, what Trump did in his ignorance and stupidity is he was worried about them having a nuclear weapon, and the Strait of Hormuz is become better than a nuclear weapon for him, because they can control the world economy to a large degree. They can impact it. They can't totally control it. But not only are they controlling gas prices, but farmers need certain fertilizer and stuff like that for their crops. That can't go through the strait. I mean, and he doesn't have it out. He didn't think it through from the beginning. And so now he's painted himself and us, the world, into a corner. And the only way I think it's going to end up being resolved is that whereas going through the Strait of Hormuz was free before, because no one had ever controlled it as Iran is doing now. And so here and forevermore, ships may have to pay a fee to get through the strait, and Iran will be getting all that money, and it's a mess.
Well, yeah, I mean, he backed out of which was the best deal. They now see, and the world sees, that the best deal that they had to keep Iran from enriching in order for them to have the capability of developing a nuclear weapon was the JCPOA, which was done under the Obama administration back in 2016. That it took more than 18 months in 5 different nations to put the JCPOA together, that kept Iran where they could only enrich to 3.67% of enrichment, which is not anywhere close to enough for them to have the capabilities of developing a nuclear. But since Donald Trump pulled out of the JCPOA because of his obsession with Barack Obama, they started
Right.
enriching to 60%, which would give them much more leverage to now developing a nuclear weapon.
Right. Right. No, the problem is when you get egomaniac who is stupid also, then you get problems. But Trump is so horrible on so many different levels, as we've discussed over the past year, that it's just incredible. The thing that he has going right now is that he doesn't, because he's an aspiring dictator, and so he wants control of all the information that anybody in this country gets, so it'll be his story, not history. So what he's doing right now with the Smithsonian uh, uh, library is he's having handmade signs posted saying that what's in the libraries. It's a bunch of buildings like the Smithsonian Library, but that's what's in them is not true history. That you have to come to his website to find out what the real deal is. Mainly one of the things he's really concerned about is the telling of American history, the original sin. Because as a white supremacist, he wants it to look a completely different way than it actually does.
Well, and what we're talking about is that President Donald Trump signed this executive order requiring for warning signs to be installed outside the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, but mainly that they do not have the American history told about the enslavement and the 246 years of millions and millions of people, of Black people, that gave free labor to this country that has built the economic wealth.
We didn't give it.
Yeah.
It was taken from us. We were forced into it. Nobody was.
Without, yeah, right.
Right.
So that the very wealth that generations and generations of whites and Donald Trump and his family and buddies are benefiting from, they are benefiting from the 246 years of free labor and 100 years of Jim Crow that Black folks built this country that they were not able to do themselves. So their own peasants couldn't till the land and couldn't develop the economic base that all of them enjoy. Can you imagine having 30 years of free labor, of not having to pay anybody, that you get 100% of all of what was produced? Anybody who had free labor for 246 years, you're talking about somebody getting a head start.
Our ancestors built the economic foundation of this country. 10 years ago, I was fighting with Trump nuts about everything, because they were believing they were about to become MAGA. They hadn't quite become that, but they had this whole attitude: America, love it or leave it. And so their retort, of course, was, well, if I wasn't happy with this country, why didn't I go back to Africa or leave this country at least? And my response to these white bigots was, why would I leave the country that my ancestors built? And they didn't have a retort to that, of course. And it still stands. Why? I mean, if anybody belongs here, it's us and the Native Americans that they stole the land from and killed a bunch of them, almost terminated them completely.
Well, it was Paul Robinson in an interview that he was doing with somebody over in England who said, listen, that America is as much my country, right? More so than anybody else because we built it.
Right.
And so the fact that we built it gives me more rights to be able to be critical of it, to be critical of what America is doing. And this idea of being in love with America, what is that? Being in love with America? When you say America, what define what America is? What should I be in love with America? It's the same philosophy that I hear people saying all the time about, are you a patriarch? And my answer is no, I'm not a patriarch. What I am is a good citizen. I'm going to pay my taxes. I'm going to obey the law and follow the law. But I still have to keep my bags packed because I may have to go up to Mount Carmel, whether it's here in Chicago or in Illinois and Washington, and talk to Ahab and Jezebel like we have on 1600 Pennsylvania Boulevard now, or Avenue.
Well, the thing, this is what's going on. It's really important that Black Americans pay attention to what's going on now. Trump is a white supremacist, and he is implicating. He's already has it in play, a whole white supremacist game plan, to the extent of, if he's completely successful, we will be back somewhere in 1953, before the civil rights movement even started. And we'll be back on the back of the bus, and we won't be able to get fair treatment. We'll be second-class citizens again. This whole DEI program that he is very successfully implementing right now is an anti-affirmative action program. That's what it really is. And a lot of progress was made as a result of the civil rights movement and the efforts of a couple of generations before us. And he's systematically wiping that out. Black women are particularly targets of the Trump administration. 95,000 Black women have been fired from the federal government, released one way or another. And in fact, a lot of people may not have noticed it, but the first term, when Trump was elected president, the first thing he did, literally the first thing he did, was fire this Black woman who was in charge of the White House, the staff. She was completely in charge of the staff, and she was his first "you're fired" victim. And he's been doing that. And in fact, this battle right now going on with the Smithsonian Library is, I think, Lonnie Bunch, who's this Black man who was, before he went to Washington, was head of the Chicago Historical Society here. I think he has a big target on his back right now. We'll see. But it looks like it to me.
Yeah, some of the high-profile federal independent agency officials that Donald Trump, as far as General Charles Q. Brown, fired as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in February of 2025. Carla Hayden dismissed from her role as the Librarian of Congress. Robert Pape removed as chairman and member of the Surface Transportation Board. Alvin Brown discharged from his position as vice chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. Gwen Wilcox removed as a member of the National Labor Relations Board. Charlotte Burrows ousted from her position as chair of the Equal Opportunity Commission, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and Lisa Cook targeted for removal from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. These are just some of the names that he has fired. And then I know you used the number of 95,000, but there has been reporting that that number is, some more like 300,000 Black women that have lost their positions as a result of this administration. Now, look, and I know people will say, well, racism was here long before Donald Trump. Yeah, racism was here long before Donald Trump. Donald Trump happens to be the avatar of what today's racist Republicans, cowards, have been looking for to get to the pinnacle. They've not been able to get anybody to the pinnacle to be able to be their avatar, to flag the kind of things that Donald Trump is willing to sign off on, which makes this so significant and so dangerous that Donald Trump is the avatar. People like Russell Vought, who is the Office of Management and Budget Director, and what's the other character's name? Stephen Miller. These are the two orchestrators of all of these executive orders that he is doing. And it was
Miller's plan, the whole racist thing and anti-immigrant thing is Miller. This is his grand design, and he
right.
is the power behind the throne that's making these decisions. For example, with the immigration program, he sets numbers on how many should be getting deported, rounded up and deported every day, and the number is incredible, and and of course they sold this to a lot of people in this country, where they were just going to get rid of the dangerous, the criminals, the murderers and the rapers and the thugs and what have you. And now, because to get to the numbers they want, what they've taken to with ICE is grabbing people out of their churches sometimes, or off their jobs. Anybody who they think or know does not have the right papers, they're grabbing them and putting them in concentration camps right now.
Yeah, and I think that this whole idea of the immigration thing, I really view the immigration thing is really sort of a launching pad of them. If they can get away with doing these with migrants, primarily with those from South America or the Hispanic, if they can get away with doing that with them, it is sort of their testing ground that they can do to anybody, right? So the real target is Black folks. I don't want people to be misunderstood or to be delusional of what the real target of this administration and its ilk of who it is that they're really targeting. They're really targeting to undermine the gains that Black folks have accomplished and received, which happened over the past 60 years, because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and then the Voting Rights of 1965, in this last 60 years, so it's only been 60 years that we've had somewhat of a real democracy. So in those gains through that period of time is where Black America has made some significant progress of the progress that we have made, and they are doing all.
We've been here since 1619. It was only when the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act passed that we became real citizens. So we have been immigrants in our own country, in our own land, for a very short time. a very
Right,
short time.
right. I think it was Barbara Jordan who, through her speech that she did as a junior or freshman, not even a junior, as a freshman congressperson in the House of Representatives, when she was speaking and gave what was later referred to as a constitutional lesson and lecture at the Richard Nixon impeachment hearings. Here's a little taste of it.
I recognize the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jordan, the purpose of general debate not to exceed a period of 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, I join my colleague, Mr. Rangel, in thanking you for giving the junior members of this committee the glorious opportunity of sharing the pain of this inquiry. Mr. Chairman, you are a strong man, and it has not been easy, but we have tried as best we can to give you as much assistance as possible. Earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we the people.
That was Barbara Jordan on her as she opened up, and she was really called on. She was called on and recognized as that was the speech that many said that it called upon Richard Nixon's own attorney general and his internal people of his cabinet to go to him the next day and tell him that the jig is up, that if you don't resign, you will be impeached and you will be convicted and thrown out of office. All right. Let's move on to the press banquet. Your microphone is muted. Your microphone is muted. Yeah, you're still muted. All right. While he's trying to figure that out, because you're still muted, Monroe. I'm not sure what's going on while you're muted. Yeah, you're still muted. I think you got to take the mute off of your on your computer there. You may have to go back out and come back in again. All right, I'm going to put you in the green room until hopefully you can get that figured out. Let me bring you back on the. We're still got you muted. All right, I'm going to put you. Try to log out and come back in again. Oh, there
Okay.
you go. There you go.
I found out where to do it. Sorry about that, folks. All right.
Okay.
So where were we?
I think that when we were talking about when we had become a part of We the People 60 years ago,
Right.
when Barbara Jordan did her famous lecture and giving her dissertation on the Constitution as one of the freshmen in the House of Representatives. That speech was largely regarded as a speech that drove Richard Nixon's cabinet members, including his attorney general, to come to him and say to him that the jig is up. If you don't resign, you will be impeached and you will be convicted and removed from office in the Senate.
Yeah. So,
and that speech was given at 1 o'clock in the morning.
right. And my statement before I muted myself, or maybe the CIA or the FBI's listened in and they muted me. But I'm joking. But anyway, Trump needs to be replaced now. We need the 25th Amendment because the man is obviously not what
we have the 25th Amendment. It's not a matter of needing. You have to have people who have the courage and the character to do the right thing by which is in the best interest of the common good of the country. That does not exist in this administration. Those folks don't exist in this.
Well, what's happening is there's now stories breaking about how some of the Republican politicians in Washington are nervous in the service. They want to speak out against Trump because they're going to lose their jobs in November. It's obvious, and so they want to be able to speak out against him, to vote against him, to show their independence, so they can keep their jobs. Personally, I think it's too late for that. That won't be happening. But this is what they want. In order for him to the 25th to be initiated, it's the cabinet. It's cabinet that has to vote for that, including JD. I wouldn't put it past JD to stab him in the back if he saw the right opportunity for it. It depends on how badly things get as we go along. But I don't take the 25th off the table. And not today, but I think it can happen.
The 25th Amendment will never happen. Will never happen. These people are too entrenched as cult members. They are too entrenched as cult members. None of them. They have been completely neutered of any type of courage to do anything antithetical to this Jim Jones of today. It will not happen. Will not happen. J.D. Vance, none of them have the courage. Look at what's going on with Casey and with Tom Tillis. Here are two people that Tom Tillis decided that he was not going to run because he knew that he was going to be primary.
Right. And
Senator Casey. Yeah, Senator Casey, he got primary, and Cornyn, Trump endorsed Paxton over him, and he lost. So, and these people are still siding with the president. This is one of the reasons why they, in my view, that they have upheld or postponed the vote on the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche for a week, because they know that it is it's like dealing with hot meat, trying to justify installing him or confirming him as the attorney general. They're trying to find a way out of this rather than them doing the right thing and not confirming this man or the national intelligence nominee as well. So
See,
there's this cabinet that's going to go against this man.
see, my point of view on that, my perspective on that, is that they are weakening. 6 months ago, it would even be them trying to avoid it. They just do it. They just go along with Trump. But now they're dragging their feet on it because as they get closer to the midterms, and they know that many of them are going down the tubes. They're anxious about it, and some are speaking out. Right now, they're still doing the vote, but when the bloodbath occurs in November, and a whole bunch of them get wiped out, and Trump will not, and the Democrats are going to be in January 20th of next year. The Democrats are going to be in power, and a whole bunch of folks are going to jail out of his cabinet in due time. And so there will be a shift once he's lost power. And the reason these people is they are they're looking out for their self-interest. So they're trying to protect themselves. But once Trump does not have the power that he has right now, that's going to change. These guys are going to find a pair at that time.
Yeah, well, by that time they won't have control, and the Democrats will have control of the House for sure, and possibly the Senate. But this guy, this president, Donald Trump, has no concern for any of these people other than to leverage power for himself. He doesn't really care about.
Yeah, mainly to make money. That's what he's in there to do. You know, when he ran for president, he didn't expect to win. The thing is, he was running to improve his brand. And that if he, as a presidential candidate, more people would know about him, and he'd be able to grift more people in more different ways than he was before, because he wasn't a billionaire at that time. Now, in the past year and a half, he has raised his financial profile to where he has $2 or $3 billion himself, and his sons have a few $1 billion. I mean, they're just stealing money hand over fist. But once the Dems get back in power, there's going to be a whole bunch of investigations going on, and this is what he's trying to avoid. So he's doing everything. He's setting up all kind of ways where he believes they're going to be able to steal the election, and he will do that by any means necessary, because he knows.
He's certainly trying to do it, and the courts have recently shut him down. As early as today, they certainly shut him down on with the post office deciding that they are not going to send out early mail-in ballots. So the court has shut that lawsuit down, and he's lost 17 straight cases, 17 cases, and 8 of those were Trump appointed judges, where they are saying that you cannot mess with the mail-in ballots. Essentially, what he is trying to do is trying to
Well, what they're saying is that the Constitution says that Congress is in charge of voting. The states are in charge of voting not the executive office. So anything he tries
Not the
to
executive
do,
office or not the federal government.
what? Sorry.
Yeah, it's not the executive office or the federal
Exactly.
government. States run their elections.
Exactly. And so he's trying to figure a way around that, to pervert it, and he's working hard at it.
Right. Right. Well, we certainly can have some solace in what's happening at the judiciary. So I think we certainly can feel um, a big sigh of relief, because we were wondering, were we going to completely lose our entire democracy through the judiciary? And that was our last line of defense, is the courts, and the court seemed to be holding the line.
The lower courts, the cases that make it to the Supreme Court, we'll see. Because usually,
he's had some tremendous losses at the Supreme Court, as well as he's had some tremendous wins, without question.
Right.
The Bird Citizens case, he lost that case. So and there were several other rulings that went against him, and certainly there are several other rulings that the Supreme Court gave him and expanded his powers. Without question, there is a certain mixed bag of what's happening at the judiciary. Well, the Senate just introduced this bill to term limit Supreme Court justices to 18 years. Now, 18 years is a long time that anybody can do something, and they're saying that if this actually passes, this would ensure that every sitting president will get the opportunity to nominate at least one Supreme Court justice. I'm not quite clear on how that math works out. I think 18 years is far too long for a Supreme Court justice. I think that no Supreme Court judge should be in more than 12 years. There
are proposals being considered right now, but the thing is that Democrats believe, rightly, that it's time to reform the Supreme Court, and so that should be when they take over in January of next year. That should be day one, where they pass some law that starts the reformation of the Supreme Court. What form it can take? One thing they want to do is add a couple more justices, so that will nullify the right wing vote majority right there, and so that's probably going to happen for sure. But there's been talk of having it where they rig it where every 2 years somebody new goes into the court. So that would guarantee that each president and his or her term, well, his right now, but her hopefully somewhere in the future, will get a chance to nominate a Supreme Court justice. And that will even it out a lot. For a whole long time, there's been this pretense that the justices are apolitical, that they're just supporting the Constitution and that's it. But that does become painfully obvious that that's not the case now.
Yeah, well, that certainly ended when Thurgood Marshall left the court. When Thurgood Marshall left the court, that was the end of the Supreme Court calling balls and strikes and not being another political arm in black robes. When Thurgood Marshall left the court, that is when the gloves were taken off, because Thurgood Marshall in a great way, was one of those very instrumental in making sure that the court stayed in its lane.
Yeah, well, there were others also, but the thing is, the right wing has been working. This has been a goal of the right wing since the uh, 70s, was to get control of the court so that they would have
Right.
things going.
Well, that
They're going.
was the whole, yeah, that was the whole thrust of the of ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Commission. That was the birth of ALEC and the
Yeah.
Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, right, right. And so now the dog has caught the bus.
Right, right. All right. Well, listen. Let's kind of. We're going to be having Mary Green is going to be coming up in a few minutes. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing coming up on this Friday. I think is very important.
Sure.
That you and I are going to be casting live at the Black Women's Expo. This is the 31st annual Black Women's Expo, and this is put on by Mary Green, who you all are going to get the opportunity to hear from in just a few minutes. And she has done a remarkable job at putting this event on, highlighting the excellent and the challenges that Black women faced here in the United States. And of course, this particular 31st annual Black Women's Expo is the real thematic thrust is unbought and unbossed, and the challenges that Black women are faced now are as great as they have ever been. So
Right.
this is going to be, a very, very pivotal Black Women's Expo that's really going to be focusing on voter engagement and voting rights, as well as economic stability of Black women. And so she's going to have Joy Reid's going to be there doing a panel. Jonathan Jackson is going to be moderating and holding a panel on voting rights and voter engagement for Black women. You and I are going to be doing a live podcast with Dorothy Tucker of CBS 2, who is an investigative reporter that's done an exhaustive report on the injustice of Black women being 16% of the population, yet they represent 30% victims of all crimes reported in Chicago over the past 25 years. And so we're going to be talking about that and that impact on Black women, and where do we start finding the solutions to that?
And our other guest is going to be Cook County Circuit Court Judge Yvonne Coleman. And so we'll have somebody who actually has some power and that she gets to rule on cases, whereas you and I just get to talk about it.
Well, yeah, and she will be able to certainly help to understand how the courts play a role in these cases. But that we can do is that we can put pressure on the people who are responsible for passing laws and putting legislation in place, because I believe that there has not been a real focus on this because they're Black women, and Black women in many respects are considered to be, based on these numbers, collateral damage. In other words, they're easy target. It's okay to go out and to attack Black women because we're not going to put a lot of resources in investigating and trying to solve those types of crimes, obviously based on the data that we have seen.
I have a different perspective from yours on that. My perspective is that Black women are the most powerful force in American politics right now. They run the Democratic Party. They do the work. They have the voice, and so they are not an easy target, but they are an obvious target because they have so much power.
Well, it's both and. They have always had significant power, and they've always had significant strength coming out of slavery. They've carried us on their back and have been the glue to our interdependence, and certainly been the glue to supporting Black men having to navigate through this racist system. But they're also targets that are easy because the control of white men have said, based on the numbers, that you go out and attack Black women, don't worry about it, because we're not going to spend a lot of resources on trying to resolve those crimes. And so, yes, that to them, to your point, is an easy way for them to have Black women targeted and diminished, and the role of Black women. But even with that, we see that Black women are still able to thrive through these challenges. But we're going to be talking about that, and it's going to be a real powerful conversation, because I think that for me, it is that we have to highlight something that there has not been an emphasis on, and in particular here in Chicago and Cook County, where we have 193 Black people elected to public office. I believe that the onus is on us to challenge them to focus on these areas that has not been emphasized. And I think that is what the real thrust of these conversations should be about. And they shouldn't just be a conversation that we have and we just gloss over them. They should be a conversation that put a challenge on the people who are in the positions of power to do something about it.
Yeah, I agree. And Black Women's Expo is a good starting point on that this Friday. So anyway, I'll make room for me and go cook some dinner. And All
right. Okay. Well, I look forward. I'll see you Friday. I look forward to seeing the judge on Friday. It's going to be a great conversation. All right, folks. Monroe Anderson for another episode of Monroe Money. Look for him live. Meet us live at the Black Women's Expo on Friday at 1 p.m. All right, Monroe. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Okay, Mark.
All right. All right. So coming up in just a few minutes, I'm going to be talking with the CEO and the boss of MGPG Events, Mary Green. That's Merry, Mary Green. And she's going to give you a little bit of history. I know that many of you, like me, have been going to the Black Women's Expo. I happen to have met Mary Green now more than 20 years ago. I didn't even realize that it had been that long that I met her. But I know that many of you who go to the Black Women's Expo year in and year out, and we don't really spend a whole lot of time talking about or thinking about the people who actually come up with the ideas, take the risk, make the commitment to put this all together, because there are so many different factions of doing this. And so we want to hear some of the backstory from her. So you're going to get a chance to talk with the CEO, or certainly hear from the CEO of the Black Women's Expo. And, I think that the Black Women's Expo represents much more, because for me, as a Black man, I think that it is incumbent upon us as Black men to realize and recognize what our responsibilities and roles for protecting and supporting Black women. That is our ultimate responsibility and duty, is to protect our Black women as well as our children, because they certainly are the seat of where our families grow from, and they are the nurturers, and they keep the fabric tied together. God made and developed the way that He wanted for there to be procreation, that between a man and a woman. And when he decided to make man from the dust of the earth, laid down him and asked Adam, after he had named all of the animal life of the world, if that he could name his helpmeet, and he could find none. And so God took from him a rib and made woman. And we should be cherishing our women, not allowing for ourselves to be in situations where our women are abused, our women are attacked, as women are under siege. And our Black women are under siege all the way from the very top of this country, and that there are people who are in these governmental legislative positions that are enabling this attack on Black women. And it is certainly emblematic of what Black women have been challenged with down through the centuries. That said, we and Black women have handled it. Whatever has come the way of Black women has been able to handle it. They certainly have overcome it. And we have that responsibility certainly to celebrate them and certainly to highlight them. So as I grow and as I get older, I recognize, and certainly as I study my word and the scripture and what drives me and certainly guides my view and my direction is what the word of God. And the more that I study and the more that I understand God a little bit more every day, I am recognize and understand my role and my responsibility for being a good steward, and not only being a good steward, but certainly being in good support. So in being able to celebrate my wife, whom I love dearly, and am so grateful to God that she is there for me and with me. I certainly want to be there for and with her. I believe that there is nothing more powerful than having a union between a husband and wife, and certainly between a Black man and a Black woman. There is nothing like it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And I know that I don't have, anything for anybody else. Wherever you happen to find love, it's perfectly your choice. And finally, but I certainly believe in the idea of certainly linking up with somebody just like the woman that I came from, which was a Black woman and my mother, because I would not be whatever it is I am today. Whatever I am today, it is certainly largely responsible of my mother and her sister. And so I celebrate the both of them, my aunt Molly, and certainly my mother Salome Matthews Wallace. They were sisters, and they were joined at the hip, very tight. My mother and sister never lived apart. My mother and her sister grew up in Coconut Grove, and when my mother got married to my father and moved to Richmond Heights, where we grew up, in a little town that was built for military Black veterans. My aunt used my uncle's DD 214 and bought her home, because you could not buy a home at that time in the community where I grew up unless you were a Black military veteran. So that community where I grew up in is a town called Richmond Heights, Florida. You can look it up, go online, you can look up and tell you a little bit about the history of where I grew up there in Miami, Florida. All right. There was a story out today while we are waiting for my guest to show up. We were supposed to be talking with Professor Pape from the University of Chicago, and he is traveling, so he was not able to join us tonight. We'll probably have him on again at some point. But we were talking about earlier when we were talking about this administration and what was going on in terms of this situation and with the press corps and the press banquet, whether or not the president should even be invited to such a thing, because we do need to have an independent press, and where it is jobs are very hard to find in the media now, because the media is very different and so much of it is complicit. Now, I think that in a great deal, that some of our media, some of our news outlets are abdicating their role and their responsibility for checking the president, and maybe that they're allowing for the abuse that is being spewed out by them because they just want to be in the room, but that is not what their role is. And their role is not to be there to be liked by the president, not to be there to be in the room just to be in the room, but you're there to be able to hold the seat of government accountable to the people. That is what you're there. You're there as the paraclete for we, the people. Without a press, we would not be able to have the kinds of information that we get from government. We would not be able to know that a president who invaded another country and did not go before Congress to get a resolution from Congress to actually go to war and then now that they have not done any type of airstrikes, that the president, without having reporting like the great reporting that we've had from the New York Times and the Washington Post, are talking about how our stockpiles are being diminished because we will not be able to respond to a world conflict if we needed to respond somewhere else in the world because of the decisions that were made warrantless by this current mayor. All right, my guest has arrived, and I want to bring her on so that we can talk with her. This is the founder, CEO, president, and boss of the Black Women's Expo. This year is the 31st annual Black Women's Expo, and we are going to be present there. And this year's Expo is going to be, every year is special, but this year is significant, and we're going to talk about that. My guest, welcome her to the program, Mary Green, founder and CEO of the Black Women's Expo. How you doing?
I am fine. How are you? I was waiting in the wings somewhere.
You certainly are waiting in the wings. I was wondering where those wings were.
So someone told me to cut it off and start all over again.
Okay. All right. Great. You're here. All right. We've been teasing this up. I'm glad that you are here. First thing I want to do is that most people don't know who you are. Most people don't know who you are. And then as I was talking about that, I didn't realize that that it's been 21 years that you and I have known each other. 21 years.
I don't believe it. I was just a little child.
Yeah, you were. You're still little now.
All right. We met at the Black Women's Expo?
No, we didn't meet at the Black Women's Expo.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember where it was that we met, but we met and talking about, you were actually planning for the Black Women's Expo, and I was finishing the ballroom.
Okay.
And you were planning out some of the sessions, and one of the sessions, you had this round table, and we used the ballroom for you to have that session.
Oh, right. Ooh, that was that long ago. Wow.
Now, how that came about, I don't remember.
Me neither.
Yeah, but there it started. All right, so let's talk about, before we get into what this year's Black Women's Expo is, give some historical context of your journey about the Black Women's Expo.
Well, you know, when people ask me that question and tell me my journey with the Expo, most of my life, I will be honest with you, Mark, I have walked into situations. They weren't planned at all. Coming to Chicago wasn't planned.
Not by you, by God.
Huh?
Not by you, by God.
By God. I mean, it's, you know, some people are planning their every move, you know, their every step, and I'm going to be here 5 years and then I'll move to this position. None of that happened. I mean, I didn't plan even the media piece to get into television and radio. That happened in where I grew up in Rochester, New York, because I was part of a community organization that was, you know, fighting the television and radio stations in Rochester because they were not hiring Blacks in front of the camera. And so we were part of the Rochester Black Media Coalition, which is part of the National Black Media Coalition. And my boss at the time became the first president before Peloria Marshall. So, and his name was James McCullough. And he was president of the Action for a Better Community out of Rochester, big organization all across the city, many different departments. And I was his secretary. And when we started to, you know, attack is a bad word, but started to challenge the media about hiring Blacks, we all went to the ABC affiliate television station one day, like 30 of us, and just asked to fill out applications. And you kind of break down a television station or any kind of corporation, and when all of you do it at one time. And we all did. They took all of our application. They were very nice to us, and we all went away. Well, a couple of weeks later, I got a call. They had a position and they wanted to hire me. Well, of course, I thought it was all, you know, all that in a bag of chips, but it was really, they found out I was the secretary to the man. And they were really trying to, you know, keep us from just, you know, going crazy with what was going on in the city. And they hired me. And that got me into media. I was taught how to produce television. And I worked for for one of the local programs at the time that was airing on the ABC affiliate. It was called PM Magazine. It was a syndicated program. And through that, and through the station allowing me to go to a major conference is how I got to Chicago. Nothing planned. You know, it was, you know, I went to this conference for the for the Association of Media Executives. And there I was in this conference trying to figure out, all of the television executives were across the stage. And at the time, there were a number of television programs that had little Black boys and white father figures. And we all remember those. And so I don't know what got into me, but I went up to the mic in the middle of the conference. There had to be thousands of people in there in this big room. And every network executive that you can think of, every, ABC, NBC, all of that. And I got to the mic and I asked the question, why was that? Do you realize what you're saying to the Black community, to Black father figures? Why is there so many of those programs? And they looked at each other and didn't know what to say. And they kind of passed it. And finally, one of them tried to answer. It wasn't satisfactory. It didn't matter to me. I said, okay, I'm not going to do a second question. Walked right out of the room and went to the ladies' room. And as I came out of the ladies' room, there was an executive from NBC here with her card in her hand, say, I think I got a job for you. And when I came completely out of the bathroom, there were cameras wanting to know who are you? And where did that question come from? So the next thing I know, I was flown to Chicago and offered a position, and that brought me here. So things just sort of happened. What year was that? You're gonna make me go back and try to figure. It was in the 80s. It was the mid 80s, and
Okay.
yeah. And when I got here, only about a year and a half was I at NBC before they started to get rid of all of the producers or sort of lay off people. And then I went to Ebony Jet Showcase, Johnson Publishing syndicated program, entertainment program, and that was fantastic because we flew all around the country interviewing all of the big celebrities, Black. So I got to meet some very interesting and powerful people. But through that, next thing I know, I have an opportunity to talk to the new owners of V103. And that's how I got into that part. And it was sort of backwards, you know, because most people go radio to television. I went television to radio. But and that's how I got to V103, start, you know, producing all of their events for their listening audience and for their advertisers. And one day I thought about the fact that I could do an expo, and went to my general manager. He said, you think you can do this? I said, yeah, why not? It would be perfect for the station because it was address, you know, some of the issues we were facing with not being able to go out in the community and do what we normally did or have as much public affairs programming as we used to. And then it would be something for the, you know, for the radio station period, because music, you know, we'd have stages and, you know, I just went through everything and put it together. The rest is history. At that time.
So how long was it that you were actually doing it on behalf of the radio station?
So of the 31 years, probably about 15, 16 years. Before one of the general managers said, "This belongs to you." And he said, "You can have it." You said what?
I said, look at
God. Look at God. He said, "This is your show." Most people don't even know it's a V103 property. Everybody knows your name. You produced the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. I had moved out of the station, took my staff with me from the promotions department. We only went 3 blocks away and produced it for them for a number of years before they gave it to me. I don't think they thought that I would be able to keep it going.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's sort of the, as I was talking about earlier, but that's sort of the stigma that's put on Black women, period, right? Is that Black women are not giving the credit for being able, certainly by white folks, are not given the credit for being able to do much of anything. But as I was saying to Monroe, that the significance of Black women is almost words don't exist, because coming out of slavery, Black women were the backbone to men being able to do the things that men needed to do to support the families and to keep from. It was a Black woman that went and freed a whole bunch of people that were enslaved. So the abilities of Black women are always undermined and discredited, but Black women have thrived. I heard something on the news today that, and this was a Black psychologist. They have this moment on CBS where they do this mental health thing, or right, these mental health tips. And what she said was, is that whatever you may be stressing about, she says that tell yourself you can handle it, which is why I said what I said to you earlier today. Whatever you're going through, whatever you start stressing about, don't worry about it. You can handle it. And that's what Black women have been doing since the beginning of time. Handling it. Right? Just handling it.
In a lot of ways, we didn't have a choice. You know, and I think that, we didn't have a choice. You had to handle it. You know, take care of your children, your families, work 2 jobs, whatever it took.
Right.
I watched my mother do that.
Right.
With 6 children, right.
Right, but you know, the Black Women's Expo is a staple event in Chicago, and that people don't really grasp what it takes to put such a production together. It's like a marriage, a wedding in many respects, because you only get one shot to do it. Right. And so you've got to plan all year round to execute this event for 3 days.
Right.
All of the work that goes into having to put this together. It's not that you just decide to go get some space and open up the doors and sell some tickets.
I wish it was that easy.
Yeah. So
I had a friend, a colleague years ago, say to me, and this had to be like 15 years ago. He said, "Mary, you do realize that you were like 8 companies in one." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "To put on this expo," he said, "you're a travel company, you're a travel agency, you are an advertising agency. We do all of our own marketing, promotion. You're a design company." And he just kept going. I was like, wow, I don't think of it like that, but you're right. Because we do all of it from soup to nuts. I mean, starting with, just selecting the venue every year. And we've always been at McCormick, but selecting our dates, making sure they're the right dates. Starting with our sponsorship packages and creating that and being, kind of unique about what we're selling, and coming up with those ideas that we think would interest a corporation. And the reason is they make it possible for us to be where we are. And that makes it possible for us to give discounted tickets, half price at Walgreens, which you can buy right now. See how I slipped that in? Or really inexpensive, less than what it should be. Exhibit booths. I mean, we are able to do all of that because major corporations, can pay a lot more and want and really understand that the Black community, and specifically Black women, are their target market. We are the spenders. We are the decision makers. We are the influencers. If you look on our website, you'll see all of that. All the way to, what this show is for us this year. We matter. So, we do it all, and, sell the show, market the show, create all the ideas, get all the speakers and entertainers, advertise it, doing what we're doing now, do all of them, the everything that you see on the street. If you see any billboards, if you see any transit ads, if you see any flyers and pluggers, all of that is done by the same small little team.
Yeah. Well, and you all keep in mind, this is all about Black women. And so, as brothers, we're just, we kind of the helpmates. So, we have to.
Black men come to the Black Women's Expo in droves.
Well, and as well we should. Yes. We should. And I think that I am excited because 10 by 10 to Win and the People Show both are going to be participating in this year's Black Women's Expo. And getting into the real thematic thrust of what this expo is and how it's going to really impact, because of what Black women are under siege by this administration. And this president was the first group to be targeted in this administration. The first person to be fired by this president was a Black woman. And so, and Black women have been under siege by this president. More than 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs. That has impacted, that's 300,000 middle class families that have been impacted by this administration. And so this expo, in a large degree, is going to be dealing with that thematic threat. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah, more and more as the years go on, we realize that the expo is just not for all of the fun and games and everything that we do, but we really have the platform and enough people coming and being involved in the show to talk about, the messaging, to talk about what we really are facing in our communities. And to be honest with you, started that way. That's why we have so many seminars over the 3 days. there's been times that we've had 50 plus seminars over the 3 days. And I think this year we may have 40. But we allow nonprofit organizations, our sponsors, all to curate their own sessions, their own topics. There's a lot about health, a lot about finance, a lot about, wellness. The men are doing mental health for men. There's relationships, and we're talking about it all. Business, how to get in business, how to stay. Women's Business Development Center will be there. So we're dealing with all the issues, and getting information and education to women. If you want to find out more, if you want to find some mentors, if you want to see how women have put these things together, how they are getting on with their jobs and their companies, this is the place to be. I mean, and it's not just information and education. It is a lot of fun going on. I mean, there'll be everything you can imagine. We've got, I think, 5 pavilions. So there's a culinary pavilion where you will see chefs, showcasing their signature items and sampling. So, that you can sit and watch that and then have samples at the end. There's the kids corner, so you can bring your little ones, to spend some time. We've got the literary cafe where you can purchase books and those items and see book signings. In fact, one of our big keynote speakers will be doing a book signing on Friday. We've got special areas, health and wellness. There's a wellness spa. There's a huge beauty and hair pavilion where they'll be giving away sampling products for women. So there's something for everyone, young and old. And it's definitely the place to be. I'm really excited about our keynotes this year. On Friday, we have Joy Reid, who was just MSNBC. I mean, you remember how every night I run home just to watch her. Now she has her own podcast, and she's still, telling her truth. She's going to be with us on Friday. I've wanted to get her for a number of years, and we finally have secured her. She will not only be interviewed from our main stage at about 2:30 on Friday, but she's doing a live podcast at 5. She's doing her podcast. She'll be interviewing the Mayor Brandon Johnson, and Congressman Jonathan Jackson, and possibly Jackson as well. But then Saturday, my team, which they're a little younger than me, I will just say that, maybe a lot younger than me, have wanted Kiki Palmer for a number of years, and we have her, the ultimate it girl, as they call her, and she will be at the Expo almost all afternoon Friday, all day. She will be there for interview on our main stage at early in the afternoon, and then she is doing something very special. And that is, she is conducting her own Pilates class at 5 p.m. I think it's 4 p.m., on Saturday. And you can register on our website. It should be up now, where you can register. It will only be for 100 women and men. Somebody asked me today, and what about men? If you want to do Pilates, please, you will be doing it, with key instructions. And you walk away with a brand new Pilates mat. And that's sponsored by Humana. So, and then Sunday we get into the gospel along with everything else. I mean, there's fashion shows, there's stepping, there's karaoke, there's local artists, there's national artists. We have Keela Richardson she was an American Idol winner, as well as new bands that are coming out from LA that'll be there. They used to be writers for like Brandy, but they will be there performing. So much going on. But Sunday, starting with Selah, the youth choir from St. Sabina Church, and that'll be followed by Chicago Mass Choir. And then headlining our gospel section is going to be Leandria Johnson, one of the best gospel singers out here. So we're really excited about our talent this year.
It's going to be a powerful lineup, folks. Make sure that you go get your tickets. As she said, you can get your tickets at Walgreens. How much are the tickets at Walgreens?
They are half price, adult tickets, so they're $15.
All right. You can get your tickets there. Make sure you come out. It's going to be a great time. And as you said, there's going to be great, powerful entertainment, but there's also going to be a town hall that's going to be done by Congressman Jonathan Jackson, who's going to be moderating a town hall there. I am going to be hosting a panel there on strategic voting. All of this is around voting rights, voting engagement, and how to leverage our power. There's no better place to do it than right here in Chicago and right here at the 31st Annual Black Women's Expo.
Expo.
Here.
B-Wee,
Say it
we
again.
call it. That's it, B-Wee,
Be
we call it.
all right.
All
Be
right, thank you.
Folks, this is Mary Green from MG Pagey.
You did.
You know, I couldn't let you get away with that. That's Mary Green from MGPG Events. She is the CEO and the founder, and you will see her somewhere around the Black Women's Expo on this Friday. Make sure that you get your tickets and come on out. It's going to be a powerful, powerful, powerful event. I'm saying that this is going to be one of the best, well-attended expo in all of the 31 years. We are claiming it, and it will be. Thanks,
Thank
Mary.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
take care.
See you later. All right. All right, folks. Make sure you get your tickets to come on out to the Black Women's Expo. And you'll see me there along with Monroe Anderson. Judge H. Yvonne Coleman is going to be on my panel, and we're going to be talking with Dorothy Tucker, who is CBS 2 investigative reporter, who is going to be talking about her investigative story. And matter of fact, I'm going to show you a clip from the story that we're going to be talking about. And we're talking about some of these are the stats of Black women and what Black women have faced here in Chicago. Black women are 16% of the population, 16% of the population, but they're 30% victims of all crimes reported. And so she's going to be talking about her investigative story and how this story came about. And Dorothy Tucker herself has been here in Chicago in television for more than 40 years. And she's going to be talking about that. We have Judge Coleman, who is a judge in the family court that oversees these types of cases, as well as other things that she presides over. And then what I want to do is to challenge. I want to challenge every Black public representative. In Illinois, we have 193 Black elected representatives. We have 22 Black state representatives. We have 10 state senators, 4 United States Congress representatives, and we have a Black lieutenant governor, a Black mayor of the city of Chicago, 17 Black mayors in the suburb, and we have 20 Black aldermen, 6 Cook County Board commissioners, a Black board president of the Cook County Board. We have a Black CEO over Chicago Public Schools, Black superintendent. We have Black people elected in all of these different positions around the city of Chicago, the county of Cook, and the state of Illinois. And we are regressing. We are regressing. Why is that? So that means that we have a bunch of people who look like us that are in positions of power, but they are not exhibiting and using that power to bring equity and justice at the level that we ought to be seeing it happen here in Chicago. And so I'm going to be challenging every person who is in an elected office. We're going to send an invitation for them to show up to this conversation. This is a powerful conversation, not for entertainment, but for edification, engagement, and mobilization for us to actually do something about reversing these statistics. 25 years she went back on this, and the statistics are startling. And the lack of emphasis that we do not see from the Black representatives. I am speaking directly to our Black representatives, that there has to be an all-out, deliberate, acute attention to this problem. Black women are 16% of the population here, and they are 30% victims of not just some crimes, but all crimes reported in the city of Chicago. Completely unacceptable to have that kind of statistic, and certainly to have the kinds of numbers that we have in terms of public policy and not addressing this issue. Here is just a snippet.
If Black women feel like they're
of
targets of crime, they have good reasons. Look at the stats. Simply going through their daily lives makes them vulnerable. Last year at grocery stores, 277 Black women were preyed on by criminals. In and around Chicago parks, 162. Even in the sanctuary of a church, 47 Black women filed police reports. And on the public transportation so many rely on, 769 Black women faced assaults, batteries, robberies, and other crimes just trying to get to work, return home, or go to school.
That was just a snippet of the conversation that we're going to have, and a snippet of the story that you're going to see at length on Friday at 1 o'clock at the Black Women's Expo at McCormick. Please make sure that you get your ticket. You can get it at Walgreens at half price, $15, and bring your children, your friends. Let us. This is our event. This is the time for us to focus on our Black sisters, our Black wives, our Black women, and their contributions and the challenges that Black women face. And so there is going to be something for everybody, and there's going to be some fun. You're going to get a chance to meet Joy Reid and Keke Palmer, and of course there are going to be other people that are going to be there, and you're going to get a chance to meet a Cook County judge who is sitting in the family court, presiding in the family court, as well as Monroe Anderson. And Monroe Anderson is a retired veteran journalist. He was the press secretary for the late Mayor Eugene Sawyer, who is my co-host every other week. He comes on for Monroe Mondays. And of course, I am grateful to intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio with Earl Winfrey, who's going to be there. He and Wanda are going to be there. So you get a chance to see the folks who are responsible for all of this, who providing this platform that we come to you every Monday right here on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And again, those of you who are watching, please, we certainly want to and appreciate those of you who follow us and participate. Please share the program with others in your outlets. Have people to go to our YouTube page at The People Show with Mark J. Wallace, and you can register there absolutely free. There is no cost to register to become a subscriber of The People Show. And certainly we want to increase our platform where we are reaching people, and then we are engaging, informing, educating, and inspiring to get involved. As I was saying earlier, a lot has to do with the lack of our progressing, has much to do with our attitudes and our egos, is that we allow for that to get in our way, because that, and I understand we all want to be appreciated and all of that. But look, bottom line is, if you just got this attitude of you just got to be in charge of something, or you're not going to participate, you play into the opposition's hand. You are actually an advocate for the opposition, those people who oppose any progress for our people and our community. We have got to abandon this idea of individualism and this idea of I've got to be in charge, or if I'm not in charge, I am not going to be bothered with it. I like to repeat all the times as you hear me read off Stokely Carmichael's saying a long time ago that no Black person in this country makes any advancement solely based on his or her talent or worth. All individual advancement is based on mass struggle. We make no progress in this world without shedding our blood. Therefore, brothers and sisters, your advancement and success does not belong to you. It belongs to the people. And if you do not use your success or advancement for the benefit of your people, it is a betrayal of the people who shed their blood for you. That means that where you and I are benefiting today, we are benefiting today because of someone's struggle and someone's work yesterday. Being engaged in the political process is about the future. It is not about today. The work that we do today in order to make the advancements and to change the status quo, it is about the future. It could be to the future of next year or the year after that or a few years after that. But all of the work that is required and all of the challenging that we do of those persons who are in position. People must understand your role. If your role, you're talking about being engaged, and we need to all be engaged because whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're enjoying, you are enjoying that because somebody engaged the system to make sure that you have the availability to do and to enjoy whatever it is that you. If you go to a restaurant, if you're going to a place of entertainment, some policy, some person, some Black people sacrifice themselves and their time to put into place for you to be able to do what you're doing today, yesterday. That is what we must understand. So we all have that duty and that responsibility to make sure that we are engaging, to make sure that we are participating, to make sure that we are working for the advancement of our people, all the way from education to economics and all of those things that matter to us, whether it's housing, whether it's health, whether it's education, all of those things that we are working towards. And we have the opportunity for these 3 days on July 31st, August the 1st, and August the 2nd to engage in all of this powerful resources and information that's going to be shared and that we will learn from. And we also have the opportunity to meet and to engage and to mobilize and organize with each other while we are enjoying and having a good time. And we are supporting another Black woman because this event is put on by a Black woman. And I believe that one of the things and the responsibility is that if nobody else supports us, we must support us, because the truth of the matter is, and this is not being bigoted, this is factual. The truth of the matter is, Black business, the success of Black business is not based on any other ethnic group. Most small, successful businesses or businesses that are successful, they're successful because Black folks supported it. You might find a business where there's some white folks that go and to buy our product, but our businesses are largely successful because of Black support, as well as we make other people rich. And so we have that responsibility. And that's exactly what Stokely Carmichael meant in his words, is that we have that responsibility. I am so excited to see that we have new businesses that are opening up. We have and I'm not getting paid by any of these. I have some of them I haven't even joined or been to yet. My wife and I are going to go to the new restaurant that just opened up over the last month or so, a month and a half, on 75th and Champlain called The Root. It is a brunch restaurant, and I am hearing all kinds of good things. Glad to see that opened up, and another restaurant opened up earlier this year called the Waffle Lounge over on 74th and State, and we have a host of Black restaurants down in Hyde Park that are open up. Virtue that open up in Hyde Park, and then we have the S2 Grill that has 8 different restaurants, and one of them, I believe, someone told me yesterday that it is the menu is strictly for vegans or vegetarians. So they have 8 different restaurants, and I'm told that the food there is great. They have one out on Stony Island, where the BJ's Market used to be, right there, 80, I want to say about 88th and Stony Island, right there, just past 87th and Stony Island. They also have one out on right at 111th and right off of Vincennes. They have one there. I did see one out in the south suburbs. So, but the point is that we have more Black businesses that are open. Now, I saw, Stephanie Trussell, who, is a Republican, brags about being a Republican. I don't know how anybody is associated with the Republican Party of today, because, it is a cult of MAGA, and there is nothing within the Republican framework that we can point to that has a substantive platform or plan or policy for moving the advancement of Black people. So don't get caught up in that label and this idea of trying to hold the Democratic Party to some unrealistic standard. Yes, we should be challenging the party, but what we must do is put ourselves in a position to leverage our ability to challenge it. But certainly, there is nothing within the Republican Party, nothing within the Republican makeup. If you read Project 2025, nothing in Project 2025 is about the advancement and the protection of an avenue for success for Black people, from education to economic. Nothing. This ideology that people are flying on, well, Black folks used to be Republican. Well, let me explain to you. Matter of fact, I don't need to explain for you. I want you to watch this and understand how it is that Black folks are largely Democratic today, right? And this idea that people like to come back to suggest how Black folks used to be Republicans. The very easy answer to that is that the roles have reversed. The Dixiecrats back then were the Republicans and the MAGAs of today. And they got pissed off when Black folks started to be treated as decent human beings. And they didn't like the idea of Black folks having the right to vote, or Black folks getting a civil rights bill passed, or the Voting Rights Act. But this is the explanation of some people that you may be familiar with about how the Dixiecrats became the Republicans of today.
1948. The Democratic Party added civil rights to its platform, and the South exploded. A group of white Southern Democrats walked out of the National Convention in protest. Why? Because they refused to support a party that backed desegregation, anti-lynching laws, and voting rights for Black Americans. They called themselves the Dixiecrats, but their real name was the state's Rights Democratic Party. Translation: We want the right to oppress black people without federal interference. Led by South Carolina Governor Strom Thurmond, they built a platform based entirely on protecting Jim Crow segregation. They weren't fringe. They won 4 states in the presidential election. 4 entire states chose racism over democracy. And after their loss, many didn't disappear. They slowly bled back into national politics as Republicans. By 1964, almost every Southern Dixiecrat had switched over to the Republican Party, shaping the Southern strategy, voter suppression, and anti-civil rights policy for decades. Since then, no Democratic president has won the majority of the white votes in any of these Southern states since 1964. This wasn't a protest, it was a political temper tantrum to preserve white supremacy. And too many of their values still echo in policies today. The Dixiecrats didn't die. They just switched parties, changed tactics, and changed language. So ask yourself, how much of their playbook is still being used today? Like, share, and comment if you have ever heard of the Dixiecrats and how they switched sides to the Republican Party.
So for all of these people who were going around talking about, well, black folks voted Democrat or were voted Republican, years ago. Where we are today as Democrats is where Republicans were back then, and where you saw the Democratic Party that were shifting. The Dixiecrats of the South decided that they were not interested in black folks advancing. And so they were leaving and going to the other side. And that's where they are. That's why the Republican Party is as it is today. And those people who ignorantly are those, what I call the meritorious manumissioners over there with them, are completely ignorant and oblivious to what the Republican Party is and what it represents. It does not represent anything good for the common good of the black community. Now, if you want to be that sellout, and that's what I call meritorious manumissioners, the people who are supporting what Republicans are using today. But you have the person who was the mastermind of the Republican Party and the thematic thrust of the Republican Party, who wanted to make sure that they diminished people's right to vote, which is what Donald Trump is using this playbook.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call
Paul Waver. Some of you might.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
So that's who founded ALEC, Paul Waver. And that is the thematic thrust of the Republicans, to diminish your ability to vote. All right, well, listen, that is going to wrap it up for us for this week. But please make sure that you join us this Friday at the Black Women's Expo, the 31st Annual Black Women's Expo, where August the 31st July 31st through August the 2nd. We'll be broadcasting live at 1 o'clock on this Friday, from 1 o'clock till 2, and then I'll be moderating the panel on strategic voting, how to leverage our power. You are going to learn how we leverage our power to change the trajectory right here in Chicago and Cook County and in the state of Illinois. That's coming up for us on this week. So make sure you join us. Get your tickets at Walgreens for half price. I want to thank all of my guests for being here today. Thank Mary Green, founder of Black Women's Expo, and Monroe Anderson, retired veteran journalist, and you, the listening audience, and certainly we thank Intellectual Radio and iHeart Radio. Good night.